For a few terrifying years, pirate fleets transformed the Caribbean into a floating empire where dozens of ships hunted as one unstoppable force, crushing merchant convoys through ruthless discipline and flawless coordination, until the world's greatest navies united to destroy them, proving that even the deadliest pirate armadas could not outrun the relentless power of the Crown forever.
Enjoy the video, and don't forget to subscribe.
Trace your finger along the map from the Bahamas toward the Windward Passage and picture the year 1718 as the smell of rotting oak, boiling pine tar, damp hemp rigging, stale bilge water, burning sulfur, and salt spray drifted across the warm Caribbean beneath towering storm clouds. Before the Golden Age of Piracy collapsed beneath relentless naval campaigns, pirate fleets briefly became floating armies capable of overwhelming merchant convoys, isolated forts, and even heavily armed escorts. Their strength never depended upon a single terrifying captain alone, but upon disciplined cooperation between dozens of vessels ranging from nimble 80-ton sloops to captured merchant ships exceeding 200 tons burden. Every hull relied upon curved white oak futtocks secured by hand-forged iron spikes nearly 12 inches long, while pronounced tumble-home strengthened the sides against incoming cannon fire and improved stability during violent broadsides. Before each major expedition, experienced shipwrights supervised careful careening, dragging vessels onto sheltered beaches where crews scraped away thick barnacles, hammered twisted oakum into every leaking seam with heavy caulking irons, and sealed the hull beneath layers of boiling pine tar that hardened into a waterproof shell capable of surviving months at sea. Pirate Articles of Agreement regulated shares of plunder, compensation for amputated limbs, and punishment for theft within the crew, creating a brutal but surprisingly organized system that often functioned more efficiently than many merchant companies. Some captains had once sailed under legal letters of marque during earlier imperial wars, bringing naval discipline into outlaw fleets that soon learned how to coordinate attacks with frightening precision. A pirate fleet rarely charged blindly toward its prey, because every movement began with reconnaissance, favorable winds, hidden anchorages, and patient observation that transformed surprise into the deadliest weapon upon the sea. Without warning, the fleet separated into carefully assigned squadrons that exploited every weakness in the merchant formation. The fastest sloops, drawing barely 8 feet of water, raced ahead to cut escape routes while heavier captured ships remained beyond musket range until the decisive moment. Experienced helmsmen constantly adjusted, heading according to shifting trade winds, watching telltales flutter across the shrouds while quartermasters calculated distance in cable lengths rather than guesswork. Signal flags, lanterns, trumpet blasts, and carefully timed cannon reports allowed multiple pirate captains to maneuver almost as one force despite the confusion of smoke and crashing waves. Their bronze cannons, commonly cast from an alloy approaching 88% copper and 10% tin with small impurities, balanced durability against resistance to cracking after repeated firing. Each gun crew followed an exact rhythm. Powder composed of roughly 75% saltpeter, 15% charcoal, and 10% sulfur was rammed behind iron round shot before ignition through the touch hole produced an expanding cloud of superheated gas that accelerated the projectile down the bore. The recoil slammed heavy wooden carriages backward against thick breaching ropes while the iron ball smashed into oak planking, crushing long wood fibers into lethal splinters that often wounded more sailors than the cannonball itself. Instead of sinking valuable prizes, pirates deliberately targeted masts, yards, braces, deadies, and standing rigging. A shattered foremast could immobilize a merchantman within minutes, leaving terrified crews surrounded by several pirate vessels approaching from different bearings with grappling hooks, boarding bridges, pistols, cutlasses, boarding axes, and pikes already prepared for the final assault. Once the distance narrowed below effective broadside range, the pirates shifted from artillery to controlled violence intended to break resistance before prolonged combat became necessary. Veteran boarders wrapped strips of cloth around their boots to improve traction across blood-soaked decks, while others soaked slow matches against stray sparks before lighting hand grenades packed with coarse black powder and iron fragments. The fleet's largest vessels maintained suppressing fire, while smaller sloops crossed the enemy's stern to rake the full length of the deck, allowing cannonballs to pass through officers, wheel, gun crews, and exposed fittings in a single devastating line. Musketeers armed with flintlock weapons climbed into the fighting tops nearly 60 feet above the water, where the rolling motion of the ship demanded exceptional balance. From those elevated platforms, they selected helmsmen, boatswains, and officers rather than firing blindly into the crowd. Smoke mixed with shredded canvas, splintered spars, and burning rope until visibility collapsed into a gray haze pierced only by orange flashes from cannon muzzles. The capstan, hatch gratings, bitts, pumps, and companionways became deadly choke points where defenders attempted to regroup, yet coordinated pirate boarding parties attacked from multiple directions at once, preventing organized resistance. Every captured vessel immediately became another weapon for the fleet because carpenters inspected damage, replaced shattered planks, reinforced weakened frames with spare timber, and restored damaged rigging using coils of hemp line carried specifically for prolonged expeditions. Success depended not merely upon courage, but upon logistics, maintenance, discipline, and the relentless ability to transform every victory into greater strength before the next frightened convoy even realized the black flags were already approaching. The greatest pirate fleets understood that fear itself multiplied their strength long before the first cannon fired. Merchant captains recognized distinctive silhouettes upon the horizon, their masts crowded with patched canvas and black banners, and many surrendered before a single shot crossed the water because they knew resistance often meant catastrophic casualties. Intelligence gathered from captured navigational charts, coerced pilots, and intercepted correspondence revealed the departure dates of Spanish treasure convoys, English merchant brigs, and French supply ships weeks before those vessels reached dangerous waters. Pirate lookouts stationed atop mainmasts nearly 70 feet above sea level scanned endlessly with brass telescopes, identifying hull forms, sail plans, and national ensigns while calculating relative speed from wind direction and wave pattern. Fleets frequently anchored behind reefs or low islands where deep-draft warships hesitated to pursue, allowing shallow-draft sloops to emerge suddenly from concealed channels. Their commanders carefully measured tidal currents, coral heads, and underwater sandbanks that could trap heavier naval frigates exceeding 500 tons burden. Even after a successful capture, crews immediately redistributed powder barrels, fresh water, salted beef, sailcloth, replacement spars, and medical supplies throughout the squadron so that no single vessel became an irreplaceable weakness. Surgeons worked with iron bone saws, linen bandages, cauterizing irons, and distilled rum, amputating shattered limbs before infection spread through cramped lower decks thick with humidity and the odor of blood, tar, and smoke. Every surviving sailor returned to duty as quickly as possible because pirate expeditions succeeded through relentless operational tempo, striking one target after another before colonial governors could assemble an effective naval response. Yet pirate dominance never depended solely upon overwhelming violence, because experienced captains constantly balanced aggression with calculated restraint whenever profit outweighed destruction. Merchant cargoes containing indigo, sugar, tobacco, cacao, hides, silver ingots, cochineal dye, and barrels of gunpowder represented fortunes that disappeared if careless cannon fire shattered the hull or ignited the hold. Prize masters therefore boarded captured ships immediately, examining manifests, sounding the bilges with weighted lines, inspecting keel timbers, knees, deck beams, and mast partners for hidden damage before deciding whether the vessel should join the fleet or be abandoned. Sailmakers spread torn canvas across broad deck planks, stitching rents with heavy palm needles and waxed flax thread, while riggers replaced parted shrouds, ratlines, and stays using fresh hemp cable measured by the fathom. Blacksmiths reheated bent iron fittings inside portable forges fueled by charcoal, reshaping hooks, hinges, nails, and chain links essential for keeping the growing fleet seaworthy. Quartermasters enforced the Articles of Agreement with surprising severity, recording shares of plunder, compensating wounded men according to predetermined scales, and punishing theft that threatened unity. A fleet that maintained discipline could remain at sea for months, replenishing food and water from captured prizes while avoiding major ports where Royal Navy squadrons searched relentlessly. This combination of organization, technical seamanship, relentless maintenance, coordinated tactics, and ruthless leadership allowed pirate fleets to overwhelm opponents that were often individually stronger, proving that the greatest danger on the 18th century Atlantic was not always the size of a single ship, but the terrifying efficiency of many vessels acting together as one relentless force. Eventually, the same qualities that allowed pirate fleets to crush everything in their path also guaranteed their destruction. As Britain, Spain, France, and the Dutch Republic expanded permanent naval patrols after 1718, isolated pirate squadrons found themselves hunted by disciplined warships carrying heavier broadsides, better supplies, and trained marines. Safe anchorages disappeared, informants sold valuable intelligence, and governors offered royal pardons or generous rewards for captured captains. One damaged mast, one empty powder magazine, or one betrayed rendezvous could destroy an entire fleet that had once ruled the sea. The era ended not because pirates forgot how to fight, but because organized states eventually matched their seamanship, surpassed their logistics, and denied them the freedom of the ocean that had once transformed scattered outlaw crews into the most feared fleets of the Golden Age of Piracy.